When we look at medieval castles today, they seem majestic. Tall stone towers, massive gates, walls built to withstand armies. They look powerful, clean, almost romantic. But there's one detail no one talks about when they imagine living inside one of these fortresses: the smell. Because if you lived in a medieval castle, one of the most uncomfortable, unavoidable parts of your day wasn't the cold or the fear of invasion, it was going to the toilet. And once you understand how they did it, you'll never look at castles the same way again. Medieval castles had no plumbing, no flushing systems, no hidden pipes beneath the floor. Everything relied on gravity and stone architecture. Instead of bathrooms, they had something called a garderobe. At first glance, a garderobe doesn't even look like a toilet room. It's more like a narrow stone closet built into the thickness of the castle wall. Inside, there was a carved stone seat with a simple hole. That hole led straight down through the wall of the castle. No water, no trap, no seal, just a vertical shaft dropping down the outer wall. Whatever you left behind fell directly downward, sometimes into a pit, sometimes into the moat, and sometimes simply onto the ground outside. I want you to really picture that. Imagine sitting in a cold stone chamber, wind slipping through arrow slits, knowing that everything you discard is sliding down the same walls that protect your home. Your fortress was also your waste disposal system, and it didn't just disappear neatly. In many castles, the waste accumulated at the base of the walls. Over time, layers of filth built up. In some places, archaeologists have actually found hardened waste deposits several feet thick beneath old castle garderobes. Several feet. That means for years, maybe decades, waste simply piled up outside the walls. When I first learned that, it completely changed how I imagine medieval life. We often romanticize stone castles as symbols of elegance and power, but daily life inside them was raw, physical, very human. And here's where it gets worse, because waste doesn't just sit quietly. It smells, it attracts insects, it produces gases. Inside the castle walls, those vertical shafts could trap odors. If airflow wasn't strong enough, smells would rise back up into the chamber. Some garderobes were built directly next to bedrooms, which means only a few steps from where nobles slept. There was an open stone hole leading down a waste shaft. There was no porcelain, no lid. No scented spray, just stone, and winter made everything harsher. Stone absorbs cold. Imagine sitting on a freezing slab of rock in January with wind pushing up through the shaft beneath you. There was no insulation, no heated floors, just cold air rising from below. It's uncomfortable to even think about, yet for them it was normal. What fascinates me most isn't that it was dirty. It's that they accepted it, because medieval people weren't unaware of hygiene. They understood disease in their own way. They valued cleanliness within the limits of their knowledge. But sanitation technology simply hadn't evolved yet. They built solutions using what they had: gravity, height, and thick walls. And here's something most people don't realize. These garderobes were sometimes used strategically. The ammonia produced by decomposing waste created strong fumes. Those fumes actually killed fleas and lice. Because of this, people would hang clothing near garderobes to disinfect them. It sounds unbelievable. But in a world where parasites were constant companions, even the toilet became a tool for survival. That detail always sticks with me, because it shows something deeper. Life in a castle wasn't about comfort. It was about adaptation. Every structure had multiple purposes: defense, storage, living space, and waste management, all intertwined inside the same walls. But what happened when the castle was under siege? That's when the system began to break down. And that's where the reality becomes even darker. Now imagine this. The castle gates are shut. An army is outside. Supplies are limited. No one can leave. This is a siege. And suddenly that simple system of drop it down the wall and forget it stops working. Because when hundreds of people are trapped inside stone walls for weeks or even months, waste doesn't disappear fast enough. It builds up. Moats became contaminated. Cesspits overflowed. The ground beneath the walls turned into thick layers of rotting filth. The smell would have been constant, heavy, impossible to escape. And here's the part people rarely think about. The castle was designed to keep enemies out, but it also kept air in. During long sieges, ventilation was limited. Fires burned indoors for warmth and cooking. Smoke mixed with damp stone. Add human waste to that environment, and the air quality must have been suffocating. When I imagine it, I don't picture noble knights in shining armor. I picture exhaustion, stale air, anxiety, the quiet discomfort of daily survival, and disease. Without proper sanitation, bacteria spread easily. Flies moved between waste and food. Parasites thrived in dark corners. If even one person became sick, it could spread quickly through confined quarters. Ironically, the stronger the castle walls were, the more trapped people became with their own filth. But there's another layer to this that fascinates me. Even with all this discomfort, medieval people didn't see castles as disgusting. To them, this was advanced engineering. Compared to villages where waste was thrown directly into the street, a vertical shaft built into stone walls was actually a clever solution. It separated waste from living spaces better than many towns did. In some castles, designers even angled the shafts outward so waste wouldn't cling to the walls. In others, they positioned garderobes over running water to carry waste away naturally. It wasn't primitive stupidity. It was innovation within limitation, and I think that's important to remember. It's easy for us to look back and judge. We have porcelain toilets, underground sewage systems, running water at the push of a button. But those systems took centuries of trial, failure, and uncomfortable reality to develop. Someone had to live through the smell. Someone had to clean the pits. Someone had to sit on freezing stone seats in winter and think, there has to be a better way. That thought, repeated across generations, is what eventually led to modern sanitation. There's also something strangely humbling about it. We tend to separate ourselves from the past. We imagine kings and queens as distant figures in paintings, removed from the ordinary human experience. But they were. They felt the cold stone. They smelled the same air. They dealt with the same physical needs as everyone else. Power didn't protect them from biology, and that detail makes history feel less like a fairy tale and more like real life. When you walk through a castle today, everything feels clean, restored, silent. The stone is dry, the air is fresh. But if you close your eyes for a moment and imagine it filled with people, fires burning, animals nearby, waste dropping through stone shafts, it becomes something else entirely. Not glamorous. Not romantic, just human. And maybe that's the part that stays with me the most. Behind every grand tower and armored knight, there was a person trying to solve ordinary problems with limited tools. A hole in the wall, gravity, distance, that was the system, and somehow for centuries it was enough until it was, and that's the story hidden behind the stones.